Welcome to another edition of BCL Interviews. Today we are sitting down with Major General Anand Saxena. The Major General has served in the Indian Army for 32 years and holds 3 master's degrees in science, philosophy and management studies. He is also a helicopter pilot with vast combat flying experience. In addition to all this, the Major General has also authored 3 books about personal finance and philosophy, with his latest work being titled 9 Mantras for Happiness and Success. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today. I would just like to mention that today is also Kargil Vijay Divas. We remember the soldiers who sacrificed so much for our country on this day, and we would also like to thank you, Major General, for your services to our nation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sandeep, and heartiest congratulations on Vijay Divas to you also.
Thank you, sir. First, I'd like to ask you about your journey towards becoming a best-selling author. Could you please tell us a little bit about your interest in writing and the subject matter that you have written about, namely finance and self-help philosophy? How has your experience in the army contributed to your writing?
Yeah, thank you, Sandeep. Actually, till the time I joined army, and I joined quite young, I was in academy when I was 19 years old. Till that time, really, I was not much interested in writing beyond what I had to write for my exams. And once I joined army, in army, one has to write a lot. And other than clearing a lot of competitive exams and doing a lot of courses, we are given a lot of tasks like writing book reviews, writing certain essays and all that, which initiates a young officer into writing. But then it was nothing really very original, and I used to just read a book and write a review and something like that.
Right.
But a few years back, what happened, I got introduced to the audible form of book listening through Audible, and I used to also listen, and I do listen only also on YouTube. So I go for long walks in the morning. And when I used to go for a walk and I used to listen to the audiobook for about an hour or thereabouts, so when I used to come back over a cup of tea, whatever I had listened over last 1 hour and whatever thoughts that it resonated within me, I used to just put it down on a Word document.
Right.
And slowly I realized that it is not very important as to what I had heard during that walk through the audible book, but it was the resonation of the thoughts that it evoked in me that started to generate some reflections in me.
Right.
So that was so far as the writing. So I started writing some blogs and so on and so forth. But your second part of the question, why finance? So again, it's an interesting story because as you would know, I'm an army officer. I'm also a helicopter pilot. So there are many things that I've learned in the army, including flying. And a few years back, I just did a rain check of my financial status. And though I was doing all right, but I realized that I'm not doing as well as I could have done at my stage of life. So I thought, why is it so? Why is it that I am not doing something right? And then I started reading about personal finance, and I realized certain mistakes that I had made. And the next step was, I thought, okay, let me now leave some legacy for my children so that the mistakes that I have made, at least they don't end up making the same mistakes.
I see.
So I put down my thoughts on paper. It continued for weeks and months. By the time I finished writing, I realized the material was enough for even a small book. And that's how my first book, Musings of a Financial Illiterate Father, it was published in July 2018.
Okay, fair enough. As you said, your first book was about titled Musings of a Financially Illiterate Father. You believe that financial illiteracy is a problem in a country like ours. It most certainly is. India ranks quite low on many metrics. The stock market participation, for example, is one of the lowest anywhere in the world. What do you think the reason is? How do we improve this as a society?
Yes, this topic is very close to my heart, Sandeep, and you are absolutely spot on. And we are talking about stock market where the participation, if I'm not wrong, is below 10%.
That's right.
Maybe it is below 5%, if I may not be too off. And if you look at that, the net per capita income of our country, it is barely 1 lakh rupees a year. that comes to, I'm talking of the average income, that comes to just about 8,000 rupees a month.
Right.
And most of the families, the male is earning, and at least there are three more mouths to feed. And this, when we convert it into US dollars, it's about $3.5 a day.
Yes. Yes.
And if you look at the World Bank poverty line, it is $3.5 a day. So we are a poor country. We are barely there so far as the developed countries are concerned. Now, on top of that, if you look at the statistics, the top 10% in our country are earning 56% of the income.
Yes.
And the bottom 10% are earning barely 3.5% of the total income. So not only that we are a poor country, there is also a huge income mismatch. But while there may be an income mismatch, there is no aspiration mismatch. Because for any parent, they want to give a good education to the children. They want to give them a secure and stable childhood, send them to good schools, good colleges. You know, they want to marry them in a decent manner. They want to give them whatever they can. They want to retire gracefully, want to spend their sunset years with dignity. Now, all this requires money. And talking of children education, you would be aware, but let me just flag the education cost. In today's cost in a private college, an MBBS degree is costing about 1 crore over 5 years.
That's right. Yeah.
An MBA about 25-30 lakhs, a BTech about 25-30 lakhs. Now, when the child is born to a parent, they would not know what he or she would become after 18-20 years. So even if we average these three most popular courses which are there in our country, you come to a figure of 50 lakh per child. I'm talking of just the undergraduate education. I'm not even talking about the cost of raising a child till that age.
Right.
And if you have two children, which is normally the norm, we are looking at 1 crore rupees just for a good, decent education for two children. Now, this kind of, it's a humongous amount, and it cannot be built in a day. It requires the power of compounding behind it. And power of compounding means one has to start early. The earlier, the better. In fact, if you are starting very early, really the amounts don't really matter, so long as you keep investing and don't dip into the corpus in between. And I've talked about just one aspect of expenditure, just children education. You look at, let's say, daughter's wedding, all said and done, certain strata of society, a daughter's wedding costs a huge lot of money.
Yes.
So that parent also has to cater for that. So all told, you're very right that financial illiteracy exists. And yeah, of course, I forgot that the recent COVID, which is still on, it has resulted in about 130 million job losses.
Absolutely.
I was reading today an article which said 100 million people have gone below the poverty line during this pandemic itself. Things are grim. We are not earning enough money. And when we are earning enough money, we are not doing enough with that money to ensure that money works for us. So there are twofold paths that I can suggest, and I have talked about it in both of my books, first two books. First is at the institutional level, at the education level, we have to address this issue. You know, we address all aspects of a child's education, supposedly things which are important for his or her growing up years. So we teach them about biology and chemistry and mathematics and what have you. I'm not saying they are not important, they are very important. But tell me, Sandeep, in your case, or I'll talk about my case, I'm a bio student. And though I got selected for medicals, I never joined, I joined army instead. Now, last 35 odd years, I have not used biology in any way in my life.
Right.
So all that education that I did up to my college was never of use to me in my practical life. So we find that people who are very rich, let's say they are born into very rich families, they turn to paupers. And we have so many examples of celebrities, billionaires. And one fine day they were literally rolling in money. and thereafter they just went bankrupt. On the other hand, we find people who were from very modest background and they became millionaires over one generation. And I'm sure, Sandeep, you have read this book called The Millionaire Next Door. It's a must read for everyone. You read that book and it tells you how to slowly and gradually build up this corpus. So that is the first part of the prong. The second part of the prong is the parental education, the education that the child gets at home. You know, again, as parents, we teach our children everything which is good for them. We teach them how to eat, how to drink, how to talk, how to dress up, everything. The only thing we don't teach them about is money and money management.
That's right.
In fact, most of the middle class families, money management is considered a taboo topic. No one wants to talk about it. So either it will not be talked in front of the children, or parents will do two of the extremes. One is, if they are very well to do, they will ensure that whatever the child asks for is given on a platter. Or else, the moment child asks for something, they'll start talking like, "Paise ped pe ugte hain kya?" Either of the way, you're not making a good mindset for the child.
That's right.
In the first case, he's not understanding the value of money. In the second case, he's growing actually scared of money. He's developing an aversion for money. And I firmly believe that money management or financial management is not as much about money itself. It's about the mindset towards money that you develop. And money is a commodity that you are getting when you are exchanging your life energy by working, by doing business or whatever you are doing. Your life energy is being put into that venture for you to earn money. And we take it, I think, very, very lightly. And this important topic has to be addressed both on the home front as well as on the education front in a formal manner. Thank you, Sandeep.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, you're absolutely right about everything that you said, especially with regards to the attitudes towards money. Moving on to the next question. Your previous book, The Millionaire Mechanic, Financial Wisdom in the Run, is about the relationship between travel and financial literacy. Can you tell us a little bit about what you mean by that? What role does travel play in wealth wisdom?
Yeah, Sandeep, I firmly believe if you look at most of the successful people in life, in all walks of life, they will have two essential qualities. They will be well traveled and they will be well read.
Right.
So travel is a very essential part of opening the parachute of your mind. You know, we have heard this Hindi phrase called "Kuein ka meda," frog in the well.
Right.
So let's say you are a billionaire's son or daughter. So obviously your neighborhood is also stinking rich. So you change your iPhone every new model, go for yearly foreign vacations, and what have you. So if you do those kind of things, you never understand what is the importance of money because everything has been given to you on a platter. On the other hand, if let's say you are born in a chawl or in a very modest kind of background, again you are living amidst the people who are from a similar background. So you again find scarcity all around. Either cases, your mindset develops along some predictable lines, which will not allow you to break out of the mindset that you develop. When you travel, you go to different cities or different countries, meet different people. You see how they live, how they earn, how they behave. And that resonates certain thoughts in you. You realize, okay, something can be done differently. Yes, it can be done differently. I'll tell you my personal example. When I was writing this book, my second book, The Millionaire Mechanic, Financial Wisdom in the Run, actually, I had traveled to Run to just set my book there. And I was there for about 12 to 15 days. I went around the entire run.
Right.
And that was the time now, Gujarat being what it is, it is full of enterprising people. It is full of small little vyaparis. And the persons I used to talk to, I used to get amazed at the kind of skills they possess in making money. They talked about the days when there was Notebandi. They talked about the days when COVID hit them and so forth. And they told me the ways and means by which they really survived, or not only survived, they thrived. That gave me a lot of insights into how things can be done differently than you are made to believe throughout your formative years. So I think, yes, travel and reading are two very, very important parts for a well-rounded personality. And if you are well-rounded, obviously you are bound to do well in life. Thank you.
Fair enough, sir. Thank you.
Your latest book is titled 9 Mantras for Happiness and Success. To be able to write such a book, you must certainly have a great deal of knowledge. Can you tell us about the inspiration for your 9 mantras? How did you arrive at this list of 9?
Yeah, sure. Sandeep, you see, it is we humans who require self-help books like 9 mantras and like, how to make friends and whatever.
Yes.
Animals and plants and birds, they don't require these kind of books. They are intrinsically happy. And whosoever is happy in life, he or she will be successful. I'll give you 2-3 quick examples. This Chinese bamboo tree, it takes 5 years from the time it is the seed is sown to the time it breaks the ground. 5 years, there is nothing visible. After 5 years, it comes out as a small sapling, as a delicate sapling, and within next 5 weeks, it grows 90 feet tall. Was it a failure for first 5 years? Should it have given up? But it perseveres and it succeeds. There is a bird called red knot. It is 10 centimeter big. It is 100 grams in weight. Every year, these birds, with like a clockwork, they do their migration, which is about 15,000 kilometers one way, from north of Canada to south of Argentina, like a clockwork.
Right.
No one teaches them navigation. No one caters for their food en route. They fly in formation. They reach there, lay their eggs, come back, and every year the cycle is repeated. Are they not successful by default? We've heard and seen winter hibernation of frogs. For months altogether, the frogs are hibernating. The wood frogs, they hibernate, their body freezes. The blood is not circulating in their body. The heart is frozen, not pumping. 7 months in a year. Come spring, they come out and they make merry, they eat, they drink, they procreate. Successful. But look at humans, what they have done. And my army life has given me some perspective. And when I used to see my comrades in hostile conditions, facing weather, facing enemy bullets, facing separation from families, facing not too much of financial abundance, and yet people were very cheerful. And when I come back home, I come to metros, I meet my friends and relatives, people who are sipping scotch, who have just come out of a BMW in that plush penthouse, and they have just returned from a vacation from Switzerland, and they are cribbing about life. Life is not fair here. So I realized that happiness or success, it is nothing to do in the extrinsic things. We search for it outside, but it resides within us. And I'm very fond of reading about religions. I've read scriptures of all major religions. So I read religions with this perspective as to what is it that they teach us. And they realize all the religions teach us only one thing: to find the true self, which is always happy. We have for the rituals, we've forgotten the real thing. Then I did a lot of study of successful people, unsuccessful people, and I realized again certain traits were running through these life stories. And as a third prong, I looked at my own life of 53 years, in which 33 years I've been in the army. I realized certain things I've done quite well. In certain other things, I've been a miserable failure. So once I coalesced all these three, I came to these 9 mantras. And there's nothing new in these mantras. Everyone knows these mantras. But I just try to put them together in a readable form with anecdotes, with scriptural wisdoms, with my real life examples, so that a person at any stage of life or at any age can follow them, and he or she can reach the goal that he or she has set for herself. So that is how this book came about, Sandeep.
Wonderful, sir. Thank you. I think it's a sort of book that seems to be needed at times like this as well.
Lastly, I would like to ask you about your next book, if you have one planned. If not, what do you think you will be exploring in the coming years?
Yeah, Sandeep, I think writing has become a passion and I write regularly. In fact, the first draft of my next book, that is my fourth book, is ready. And very, very tentatively, I have named it as 30 by 30 Matrix to Redesign Your Life. Now, why 30 by 30? But before that, what is this matrix to redesign your life? I feel we in life live perpetually in a reactive mode. Things happen to us, we react to it, that creates more situations, and we again react to it. That sort of sets up our life path, and we end up wherever we end up, sometime at good places, sometime at not too good places. But it is a call of default mode of living. And sometimes people justify it by saying, यार किस्मत में तो ये लिखा था तो यही होना था. And they also invoke a great scripture like Bhagavad Gita to justify this kind of fatalist attitude. Now, this attitude is not correct. You can always make your destiny, you can change your destiny. You can design your life or you can redesign your life. So in this, there are 30 small chapters. So 30 by 30 means that you spend 30 minutes on one chapter every day, and you do it over 30 days in which you will finish the book. And there are certain exercises, certain reflections at the end of each chapter. And if you just follow that thread, by the time you finish this 30 by 30 exercise, maybe your outlook towards life would change. And with that, possibly your life will be redesigned. So it is still in informative stages, but this is the basic plot of the next book, Sandeep.
Great, wonderful. Well, thank you, sir. I think we've covered everything we wanted to talk about today. It was a fantastic conversation. It was a great pleasure talking to you. And I'd just like to thank you again for taking the time out of your day to speak with us. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Sandeep. Thank you for sparing time. Thank you, Pawan, for giving me the opportunity. Again, wishing you very happy Vijay Divas. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
You too, sir. Thank you.